All right, so you sent over a ton of panda info. Wow, looks like you're on your way to becoming a real panda expert.
Oh, I'm trying.
We've got scientific papers, articles, even some first-hand accounts from researchers. So are you ready to jump in and see what we can discover?
Absolutely. I'm ready to dive in.
Great. Well, let's start with their look. I mean, that classic black and white fur.
Yeah, those eye patches are iconic, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually incredibly practical.
Really? How so?
Think about their habitat up in the mountains in China.
Okay, yeah.
Those black and white patches help them blend in with the snow and the dappled shadows of the bamboo forests. It's amazing camouflage.
Wow, so efficient. It's not just cute, then it's really functional.
Right, exactly.
And I guess that makes sense considering all the time they spend eating bamboo.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of bamboo, that's another area where their adaptations are really remarkable. Their diet is almost exclusively bamboo.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising when you think about it, considering they're related to bears.
Right. You'd think they'd be more interested in, you know, meat.
Exactly.
But they've evolved to thrive on this tough plant. They have these specialized digestive systems and strong jaws that allow them to process all that fibrous bamboo.
Wow, I bet that takes some serious dedication. Like, how much time do they actually spend eating each day?
Well, they can spend a remarkable 10 to 16 hours a day foraging and eating bamboo.
Wow, 10 to 16 hours. That's like a full-time job.
It is. It's a testament to how much they rely on this single food source.
So are they picky eaters? Like, even within the bamboo world, are there certain kinds they prefer?
Oh, they're surprisingly picky. They have preferences for certain species, parts of the plant, even the age of the bamboo.
Wow, so they're like bamboo connoisseurs.
Exactly. And this selectivity can actually have implications for conservation efforts because it limits their options in a shrinking habitat.
Oh, that makes sense. It's not just about having enough bamboo, it's about having the right kind.
Right.
Okay, so we've talked about all this eating, but it makes me wonder about their social lives. Do they gather together for these bamboo feasts, or are they more solitary diners?
Hmm. That's a great question. And it leads us to one of the most interesting debates about giant pandas. Are they truly solitary, or are they simply forced into solitude by their diet and habitat?
Ooh, a panda mystery. I'm intrigued. What are the arguments on each side?
Well, one argument is that the scarcity of bamboo and the large territories they need to find enough food naturally lead to less social interaction.
So it's not that they don't like each other, they just don't run into each other that often.
Exactly. It's like, sorry, can't chat. Got to
Yep,
find
yeah.
some more bamboo.
Haha. Right.
And this idea is supported by observations that during the breeding season, pandas do come together, and there's even evidence of playful interactions. So it suggests that they're capable of social behavior when the circumstances allow.
Interesting. So it's not totally out of character for them to be social.
Right.
But what about the other side? What evidence suggests that they're inherently solitary?
Well, those who believe pandas are inherently solitary point to their limited communication and the lack of complex social structures you see in other species. They argue that even if bamboo were plentiful, pandas wouldn't suddenly form elaborate social groups.
So it's like a nature versus nurture debate, but in the panda world?
Precisely. It's a question that continues to fascinate researchers.
It really makes you wonder.
But even if they're not the most social creatures, their lives are far from boring. Their foraging journeys can take them over vast distances, and they face so many challenges, from finding the right kind of bamboo to navigating a habitat that's increasingly impacted by humans.
It sounds like a tough life being a panda.
It can be, but they're incredibly adaptable and resilient.
Yeah, they must be to survive in such a challenging environment.
Absolutely, and their resilience is a testament to their evolution, their unique adaptations, and the amazing conservation efforts that have helped them survive in a changing world.
That's a great segue. Speaking of which, should we delve into the world of panda conservation and see how their story has intertwined with human efforts to protect them?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating story with its share of challenges, but also some remarkable successes.
Perfect. Let's jump in. Okay, so we've talked about their adaptations, their bamboo obsession, and of course the whole debate about how social they really are.
Right.
But now I think it's time to dive into the world of panda conservation, because it's a story with both challenges and some pretty remarkable successes.
Right. Oh, absolutely. The giant panda's journey has been so closely tied to human efforts to protect them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So where do we even begin? What are some of the biggest threats that pandas are facing in the wild right now?
Well, habitat loss is a huge one.
Yeah.
As human populations grow and we keep expanding development, panda habitat gets fragmented and shrunk.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This limits their access to the bamboo they need, and it isolates populations. making them way more vulnerable.
It's like the classic story of humans encroaching on the natural world. But it's not just about losing territory, is it? There's also the impact of climate change.
It's exactly. Climate change is a major threat to pandas because it can disrupt bamboo growth cycles and really mess with the balance of their ecosystem.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a problem.
Even small shifts in temperature and rainfall can affect how much bamboo is available.
Wow, so it's like a double whammy. They're losing their homes and then they're struggling to find food in the forests that are left.
It's a tough situation.
Yeah.
But the good news is that there are a lot of people working hard to protect pandas.
Oh, that's good to hear. So what are they doing? What are some of the main strategies they're using?
Well, a big focus is on creating and expanding protected areas, like nature reserves and national parks.
So basically like panda sanctuaries.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
These areas give pandas the space and resources they need to thrive.
Okay, so that makes sense. And what's happening within these protected areas?
There's a lot going on. They're restoring degraded habitat, monitoring panda populations and trying to minimize conflict between humans and wildlife.
It sounds like a really comprehensive approach, combining habitat protection with active management. But what about the pandas that are already stuck in these fragmented habitats? Is there anything being done to help them?
Definitely. There are some really innovative strategies being used. For example, they're creating wildlife corridors.
What are those?
Basically, they're pathways that connect those fragmented patches of forest, allowing pandas to move more freely between areas and access a wider range of resources.
Wow, so it's like building bridges for pandas.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. But I'm guessing conservation isn't just about managing their habitat. What about efforts to directly increase panda populations?
Well, captive breeding programs have played a crucial role in boosting panda numbers and keeping the gene pool diverse.
Yeah, I've heard about those. They've even been able to reintroduce some pandas back into the wild, right?
Yeah, it's a really complex process, though.
I bet. How does it work?
They have to do a lot of preparation, like acclimating the pandas to their new environment and teaching them survival skills.
Wow, it sounds like a delicate balance.
It is. It's all about giving them the support they need while also encouraging their independence.
It must be so rewarding when a reintroduced panda thrives in the wild.
It is. There's nothing like it.
Speaking of success stories, I remember when the giant panda was downgraded from endangered to vulnerable on the IUCN Red List. That must have been a huge moment for conservation efforts.
It was a big deal. It really reflected decades of research, conservation action, and international collaboration.
Wow, so what did that downgrade actually mean?
It meant that wild panda populations had stabilized and were starting to increase.
That's fantastic news. It shows that with enough effort and a coordinated approach, we can make a real difference.
We can. But it's important to remember that the threats to pandas haven't gone away.
Right.
Habitat loss,
Yep.
climate change, all those challenges are still there.
Mhm.
And just because a species isn't endangered anymore doesn't mean we can stop trying to protect it.
So the journey continues. What are some of the key areas that need more attention to make sure pandas have a secure future?
Well, we need to keep working on protecting and expanding their habitat. We also have to refine captive breeding and reintroduction programs. And I think most importantly, we need to tackle the root causes of habitat loss and climate change.
So it's about looking at the bigger picture and understanding that panda conservation is connected to all these broader environmental issues.
Exactly. The fate of giant pandas is tied to the health of our planet.
That's a good point.
But-
So by protecting them, we're actually protecting a whole lot more.
Absolutely.
Now, I know we've been focusing on the scientific and ecological side of things, but there's another dimension to their story that's really fascinating. Their cultural significance.
You're right. Giant pandas are more than just biological wonders. They hold a special place in human culture, especially in China, where they've been revered for centuries.
So should we explore that side of their story?
I think we should. It's a really important part of understanding their journey.
Great, let's do it. All right, so we've talked about panda adaptations, their conservation challenges, and even some of the successes in protecting them. But now I want to shift gears and explore the cultural side of these amazing creatures.
Yeah, they're more than just fascinating animals, right? They have this powerful place in human culture, especially in China.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. What's their cultural significance there?
Well, in China, pandas have been revered for centuries. They symbolize peace, harmony, gentleness, those kinds of positive qualities.
let's see that.
They're featured in art, literature, folklore, embodying all these things that resonate really deeply within Chinese culture.
So they're almost like cultural ambassadors, embodying the spirit of a nation.
Exactly. And this cultural significance has actually played a role in their conservation. The panda's image is so recognizable, it evokes strong emotions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's helped get people behind conservation efforts, both in China and internationally.
It's amazing how one animal can kind of transcend borders and become a symbol of unity and hope for so many people. And speaking of transcending borders, I have to ask about panda diplomacy.
Ah, yes, panda diplomacy.
It's such a fascinating concept. Can you tell me more about that?
Well, it has a long history. It actually dates back to the Tang Dynasty when Empress Wuzation gifted a pair of pandas to the Japanese emperor.
Wow.
And over the centuries, China has continued this tradition, loaning pandas to zoos and institutions around the world.
As a gesture of goodwill.
Right. It's all about building friendship and strengthening diplomatic ties.
So it's like a cuddly form of international relations.
You could say that the arrival of pandas in a new country always creates so much excitement and media attention. It fosters cultural exchange. And, it's a really charming way to build bridges between nations.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to imagine anyone resisting the charm of a panda ambassador, but it does make you think about the ethics of it all, doesn't it?
It does.
Like, are we just using these animals for our own purposes, even if those purposes seem harmless on the surface?
Yeah, it's a valid question. Panda diplomacy brings up some complex issues about animal welfare, the commodification of wildlife, and how we balance conservation goals with cultural traditions. It's a conversation we need to keep having.
Absolutely. So we've gone from their black and white fur to their bamboo binges, their mysterious social lives, the threats they face, the efforts to save them, and now their role as cultural icons and diplomatic envoys. It's been quite a journey.
It has. It really shows how much there is to learn about these amazing creatures.
For sure. So before we wrap up, what's one key takeaway you'd like our listener to walk away with? Something to ponder as they keep exploring the panda world.
I think the most important thing is to remember that the story of the giant panda isn't over. It's still being written. And their future really depends on our continued efforts to protect them, understand them, and appreciate that interconnectedness we have with all living things.
I love that. So to our listener out there, keep that curiosity alive, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep advocating for these incredible creatures. Who knows, maybe someday you'll be the one making new discoveries about pandas and helping to ensure their survival.
That's what it's all about. There's always more to learn, more to discover, and more ways we can contribute to the well-being of our planet and all the amazing creatures that share it with us.
Well said. Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the world of giant pandas. We hope you enjoyed the journey as much as we did. Until next time, stay curious.